You've done this before, right? You get into a new car and almost instinctively your hand goes to the headrest to feel that little embroidered logo. When it's a good one, you can feel it immediately. It's got this crisp 3D texture that just feels expensive. But then you get in another car and it's just flat, kind of flimsy. Maybe the edges are even a little fuzzy and it just screams cheap. Well, let me tell you, that feeling you're getting, it's not in your head. I mean, look, it really is this simple. On one side, you've got what feels like a little piece of art. It has substance, it has depth, it has clean lines. And on the other side, well, you've got a cheap knockoff. It's flat, it's frayed, and you just know deep down that it's not going to hold up. You can literally feel the difference between quality and corner cutting at your fingertips. So this is the whole point. That little logo is telling you a secret story. It's a story about the car's real quality, its actual cost, and believe it or not, even its safety. So the big question is, do you know how to read that story? Is it a badge of honor or a huge warning sign? Well, don't worry. By the time we're done here, you're going to be an expert. All right, let's follow the money. We're going to dive into the price tag behind these stitches. But first, you got to understand, this is not your grandma's sewing circle. We're talking about a serious industrial process where a tiny bit of thread can literally add thousands of dollars to a car's sticker price. You know, the people who actually do this for a living have a pretty cool name for it. They don't just call it embroidery. They call it industrial tattooing. And that name is perfect, isn't it? Because the logo has to look as gorgeous as something on a luxury handbag, but it's also got to be tough enough to survive a decade of sun, spills, and your jeans rubbing against it day in and day out. It's art, but it's engineered art. Okay, now prepare to have your mind blown. Look at these numbers. A big luxury brand might spend maybe 300 won, we're talking about 40 bucks, for all the embroidery in a car. But then they'll wrap it up in some optional luxury package and charge you an extra 5,000 won. That is a profit margin of over 90%. It is without a doubt one of the cheapest ways for them to create the perception of high value. So how do they actually pull this off? How do they create that feeling? Well, it all comes down to the technology. And there are basically 3 levels, 3 different tiers of embroidery. Knowing the difference between them is your first big step to never getting ripped off again. So let's start at the bottom. Tier 1, flat embroidery. This is the stuff you see everywhere. The best way to think about it is like a machine is drawing a super detailed picture, but instead of using a pen, it's using colored thread. It's functional, it's clean, but it has almost no texture to it. This is your baseline. And the cost? You ready for this? The cost for the car maker to produce a single one of these flat logos is just 4.5 yuan. That's less than $1. Seriously, remember that number. It's our starting point for what cheap really costs them. Okay, now we're leveling up. Welcome to Tier 2, 3D puff embroidery. This is where you actually start to feel that luxury. The secret is that they stitch a layer of foam underneath, which makes the logo pop up. It literally stands up from the surface. The whole icing on a cake analogy is spot on. It gives it that sculpted, tactile feel that makes you want to touch it. But that premium feel, it costs. The price for the automaker suddenly jumps to 17.5 yuan for each logo. That is nearly 4 times more expensive than that basic flat stitch we just talked about. They're paying for more material, a way more complex machine, and a process that's just slower and more detailed. And now for the top shelf. Tier 3, chenille embroidery. This stuff is rare, it's ultra premium. The process creates this amazing, soft, almost velvety texture. The sources say it feels like a pet's fur, but way, way denser. Or think about the texture of a really plush bath towel, but shrunk down onto a tiny logo. This is the good stuff. And the price? A jaw-dropping 38 yuan. That's more than 8 times what that basic flat logo costs. This is what we call a data shock moment. When you feel this kind of stitching in a car, you are literally touching the most expensive, top-of-the-line embroidery tech in the entire auto industry. All right, so now you know the 3 tiers. Let's use that knowledge to bust some common myths, the kind of stuff a slick salesperson might throw at you to make a car sound more impressive than it is. Think of this as your secret weapon. So, you've probably heard this one before, or something like it. The idea that if a logo has a higher stitch count, it must be higher quality. I mean, it makes sense on the surface, right? More thread, more work, better product. Yeah, no, it's completely wrong. In fact, jamming too many stitches too close together is actually a bad thing. It shreds the leather or the fabric. The engineers have a name for it, the postage stamp effect.
All those little holes weaken the material right along the edge, making it super easy to tear. Real quality is not about cramming in more thread. It's about clean lines and strong, stable borders.
Okay, here's another trap. You see some shiny metallic thread on a logo, and your brain instantly thinks, ooh, that's premium. But is it really any better? The truth is, using pure metal thread in a car is actually a terrible idea. First of all, it's a potential shock hazard if a wire for, say, your heated seats gets nicked. Second, it's super brittle and breaks way more easily than standard polyester thread. And third, it costs 8 times more for an effect you can get with safer, stronger materials. It's all flash and no substance. Okay, we need to shift gears for a minute and talk about something dead serious. We've talked about cost, we've talked about quality, but the most critical thing is safety. Because, and I'm not exaggerating, under the wrong circumstances, a little decorative logo can actually be deadly. The law on this could not be more clear. There is a national standard that says if you put any embroidery in the zone where a side airbag deploys, that's usually on the side of the seat back, it absolutely must be designed to tear away instantly. It cannot, under any circumstances, get in the way of that airbag. Just let this sink in for a second. An airbag has to inflate in about 0.03 seconds. That is literally faster than you can blink your eye. If a thick, strong logo is stitched over that seam, it can act like a piece of armor, stopping the airbag from opening right when you need it to save your life. A simple stitch could make all the difference. Now, any good, responsible automaker has already figured this out. They use one of two main solutions. Either they use a special kind of weakened thread that's literally designed to snap under pressure, or they use lasers to score the material behind the logo, creating a perfect little tearaway zone. The point is, real safety takes real engineering, not just a pretty design. Okay, that was a lot, I know. So let's boil it all down into a super simple cheat sheet that you can actually use the next time you walk into a dealership. This is how you make sure you get what you're paying for and how you stay safe. Here are the 5 big things to remember. 1. Know the tiers. If you're looking at an expensive car, you should expect to see that 3D puff embroidery. Don't be impressed by the basic flat stuff. 2. Handmade is almost always a lie. 99% of this is done by a machine. 3. Safety first, always. Especially if you're getting custom seats, you have to ask about airbag compliance. 4. To take care of it, be gentle. A damp cloth is all you need. And 5, remember that the tech is getting cheaper. The fancy stitching of today will be standard on affordable cars in just a few years. So the next time you get in a car, go ahead and touch that logo. Feel the texture of the stitches, because now you know the real story. You know that what you're feeling isn't just threat. It's a story of cost, engineering, and most importantly, safety. They say the devil is in the details, but as you now know, true luxury and real safety is often hidden in the stitches you can't even see.